So
Yeah. Okay, I guess we start off with Snakebite then. So here it is. I think this is the original cover of it. It had
yeah,
like three different covers. There's one. I
yeah,
had that one on vinyl. I think that's
yeah.
like a
This is
US or Canada type of
yeah,
cover of it.
this is the Geffen
Yeah.
reissue from 1987.
Yeah.
Like there are other ones that just have the snake on them, and yeah, there's a few different ones. But what's interesting about Snakebite is that Whitesnake's origins are kind of interesting because it kind of went from David Coverdale's solo band into a band with a name because his first solo album was just called White Snake,
Yeah. Two
and
different
he had
words.
a
White
song called
snake. Yeah.
White Snake. Yeah, two words. Yeah, and then right after that, he put out North Wind. So this
Mhm.
CD came out in '88, and it's just got both of those
Yeah.
albums on
Okay.
one. But side two of North Winds is side two of Snakebite,
That's right.
because in Europe this came out just as an EP, the first four
Yeah.
songs. So it's not
Which is
really
the
an
same.
album.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean it did contain an important song for Whitesnake's early career, and that's "Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City," which was a
Yep.
blues cover, a Bobby Bland cover. I mean, that became a live staple of their set list forever. Um, but the other thing that connects Coverdale's two solo albums to Whitesnake is the fact that he had Mickey Moody
Mm.
on guitar and co-writing. So it kind of morphed into a band situation. So, I don't know, we want to talk more about Snakebite, but it was one of the first early Whitesnake things that I picked up after I got into the band.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Snakebite, I think it's really cool. I like the song "Come On." That song is
Mhm.
on both the Live at Hammersmith and the Live in the Heart of the City. And yeah, I really like that song. It's very good. And of course, it's written by Cardell and Marston. I think Bernie Marston is a great guitarist.
Yeah.
Um, there's like with these two guitar bands, they're kind of difficult to know which one of them play different parts. At least for me, I know there are people that are very like dig deep into these things and know like everything that the different guitars played. But for the most part, I can't distinguish the two. Now I know Bernie Marsden has kind of a distinct sound, in a way, and that is very apparent on Live in the Heart of the City. You can hear it very
Yeah.
well when Marston is playing. But on the albums, I don't feel like they are too different in their styles. But maybe you disagree with that. But yeah,
Well, no, I agree that they're both good guitarists, and but they certainly weren't flashy guitarists.
no, there were no
That
John
David Coverdale.
Sykes or anything like that.
No,
No, no,
it
no.
was very, very different, very blues based. And I know anytime that you hear slide guitar,
Mhm.
like if we're talking about Snakebite, like a song like Steal Away,
Yeah,
that's Mickey Moody.
yeah,
Mickey Moody does the slide guitar.
mm,
Other than that, I couldn't really pick a Marsden solo from a Moody solo unless I saw it. Like you see the original video for "Fool for Your Lovin'." Well, Birdie's doing that solo. So, but other than that, no, I don't really. It's not like you can hear, okay, well, that's Adrian Vandenberg or that's
yeah,
Doug Aldrich, or like I can't really do that with
yeah,
these early. But it does seem to be like you get the spirit of a band here. Like there's no players are really out front. And what's also interesting about Snakebite is that J- John Lord had not yet joined.
yeah,
You had Pete Solly on keyboards, and so that's a little bit different. It's still in that formation, and Dave Dowell, of course, was the drummer, the original drummer. It wasn't Ian Pace yet. So yeah, so you don't have Ian Pace and you don't have John Lord
yeah,
yet, but that's about to change.
yeah. And I think when Ian Pace, we will come to it later, but I think that changed a lot. I think Ready and
Yeah,
Willing and onwards were really great. So yeah, but yeah, Snakebite is a cool EP. Now, as you said, in other parts of the world, it was more like an album type because they use side two of um, North Winds.
North Winds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
because I don't think that North Winds. I don't think that North Winds came out in North America originally.
um,
I know Whitesnake did, and the reason I know that is because here in Canada, the Whitesnake album came out on an independent label in Canada, fairly successful independent label called Attic Records, and
Okay.
that's why Attic Records is the company that reissued the CDs. So, because I didn't know that until I discovered Discogs.
Yeah.
Because I guess I either figured it didn't come out at all, or it would have come out on either Warner Brothers or EMI, which were Purple's labels, but it didn't. Um, so yeah, so it's an interesting, and it's they're not until Coverdale, as you've got behind you, until he put out the solo albums box set, they weren't really considered Whitesnake albums. So when Geffen reissued the Whitesnake catalog, this is kind of they want you to think, okay, well, here's the first Whitesnake album, even though it's
Yeah.
really not.
Yeah. And that's very interesting. You touching on that Snakebite was released on this smaller label in the US and Canada, and that's like most of these albums in the early period were not released. Like maybe they had some original issues, but they were not like readily available in the US. I've heard a lot of people say
Yeah,
that, and they were kind of
that's right. Now,
forgotten or not even recognized at all over there. But I know
yeah,
in Europe and other parts of the world, Whitesnake was not very big, but they were people recognized that they exist and everything before Slide It In, because Slide It In was like the
yeah,
first album that cracked North America. So,
mhm,
but the early part of Whitesnake is very much unknown to a lot of people in America, which is very interesting because it was
yeah,
very different in Europe. So,
yeah. Well, Deep Purple were big in North America, but primarily people think of it like the Mark II
yeah.
lineup, the Ian Gillan lineup, right? But yeah, in Canada and the US, Snakebite, Trouble, and Love Hunter came out on a company called United Artists Records,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
which was a division, I think, a smaller division of Capitol Records,
yeah.
and then the Ready and Willing, Live in the Heart of the City, Come and Get It came out on Mirage Records, which was a small division of Atlantic Records. And Saints and Sinners didn't come out at all
Mm,
until Geffen reissued it. As far as I can tell, I have not seen a Canadian or a US version of Saints and Sinners that isn't on Geffen. So that means it just didn't come out at all in North America, which
yeah,
is interesting.
yeah, very interesting. I thought it actually was like Ready and Willing because when Geffen reissued the albums, wasn't
Yeah,
like all the other albums reissued, but not Ready and Willing. Am
that's
I
right.
correct in
No,
that?
that is absolutely right. And Ready and Willing by far was the hardest Whitesnake album for me to find. I did eventually find a Mirage cassette of it. I was
Yeah,
buying cassettes back then. So I had all of those Geffen albums,
yeah,
but I didn't have Ready and Willing. And I've never read this anywhere, but I think that when Geffen and John Kolodner, the A&R guy for Geffen, when the reissues happened, so everything pre-slided in, I I think he held back Ready and Willing on purpose because he wanted Coverdale to redo Fool for Your Lovin'.
super loving,
That's
very
that's
true.
what I've always thought,
Yeah,
because we'll get to that when we get to that period, but I wanted to buy that one right away, but
mhm,
we'll get to that when we get to
yeah,
that album.
yeah. So the first album, the first real album in this early period of Whitesnake is Trouble. So yeah, I think this album is very interesting because it has like this Beatles cover on it, and it has this
Yeah,
very interesting instrumental and everything. Belgian Tom's hat trick. It's kind
yeah,
of different. I think it's very similar to the two solo albums he did before, and even Snakebite, some of the songs from Snakebite. But then I think like Love Hunter and especially Ready and Willing and Moving Forward, it kind of changed the sound and everything. So, but yeah, I think this is a solid album. It's not the greatest Whitesnake album, but I think there's some really good tunes on this one. Take Me With You, I've always liked. I like how fast it is. It's a great
yeah,
opening track. And I like the beginning part. That guitar, it just
yeah,
sounds really cool, kind of distorted and everything. And then
yeah,
the drums and everything comes in. And I just love so much this early period how John Lord's keyboards are so present in the mix on pretty much all these albums. But I think especially Come and Get It, I think there's a lot of John Lord on that one. But yeah,
Yeah, he's such a strong personality, like, his presence just comes out in his playing, like,
yeah,
and yeah, and this is the first, he is pictured on the album for the first
yeah,
time, so you've got, almost the classic Whitesnake lineup. I mean,
yeah.
David Dowell was a good drummer, but he wasn't Ian Pace, not many
Yeah.
people are.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think David Dowell did a really good job on both Snakebite and Trouble and Love Hunter. I think he did a fine job. So I have
Yeah,
no
and the live
problem
at
with that at all.
Hammersmith is fine. It's just that
Yeah,
Ian Pace, if you got a chance to have Ian Pace in your band, you probably should.
yeah, exactly. That's
Um,
true. That's true.
um, it's interesting because I've I remember I played the Whitesnake cover of Day Tripper for my wife, and she kind of likes it now, but at first she's like, that is very strange. Like they slow it down to almost a funk kind of feel. Like it's really different. But you know what? Sometimes it's good to take a well-known song like that and completely, it's recognizable,
Mm.
but the way they do it is very, very different.
And
When I got this album, the only song I knew was "Take Me With You" because of the
yeah,
live album. So this is all new to me. Now,
and that's
a
like one
band,
of the very few songs that's actually been played like afterwards after this album. They
yeah,
like recently, like in the Good to Be Bad era and everything, they played Take Me With You.
and
So yeah,
that was cool when I was like, oh wow, they dug that up. That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's cool.
Um, there's one. There's one song on here that a band that I wasn't into when I got into Whitesnake that I would get into it years later is Thin Lizzy.
Mm.
And when I hear "The Time Is Right for Love," that sounds very much like Thin Lizzy to me. Like, I have to think that Mickey Moody and Bernie Marsden were influenced by Thin Lizzy at that time with the twin lead guitar. Because there's a song on Thin Lizzy's Fighting album. I think it's the one that it's called "For Those That Love to Live." It sounds very much like "The Time Is Right for Love." It reminds me of it. So I have to think that that was an influence. And I agree with you. I really like Belgian Tom's Hat Trick. That's a cool sort of almost jazzy instrumental, but some really cool guitar
That
work on that
title
one.
is just so funny on that
Yeah,
song. So yeah, but I think you said it right. Like the time is right for love is a great song. I think it's one of the best songs on the album. I think maybe Take Me With You is my favorite, but The Time is Right for Love is definitely a second favorite of mine. Really, really good. And I love the guitar melody of it. Da, 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 da. I love that
yeah,
melody.
yeah,
It's so great. And I think Coverdale sounds really, really good throughout this
yeah.
album. And I think Coverdale in Deep Purple, I think he was kind of restrained in some ways with his voice and his expressions. I think he just went loose on it when it came to Whitesnake, having his own band, kind of getting to write his own lyrics and everything. Maybe he did that in Deep Purple too, but I think he's really like adapted to what he wanted to do, and you can hear it in his voice. He's like very passionate when he sings, and
Very confident.
these are the lyrics that he wants to sing also. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, he stepped into at the time that he joined Deep Purple, they were one of the biggest bands in the world, so
yeah,
they had a very established sound. So especially on Burn, I think the only two songs that Coverdale is credited on are "Sail Away" and "Mistreated."
yeah,
And of course, "Mistreated" would practically become an honorary Whitesnake song over the years.
yeah,
By
yeah,
the time you get to Come Taste the Band" is almost a primer for the early Whitesnake. There's
yeah,
a lot of songs on there that wouldn't sound out of place on these early albums. And you bring up a good point about um, David Dowell's playing, and that whole period, the two solo albums, Snakebite, Trouble. We're only talking a couple years here, so these songs were all written around the same time. I'm not sure if they were recorded at the same time, but it's not like a lot of time had passed, so they were going to be changing musically. But you're right, with Love Hunter, it starts to get less away from Deep Purple, or more away from Deep Purple, more away from those solo albums, and it would sound like what you'd consider Whitesnake to sound like.
yeah. And talking about the drummers, something that really fascinated me when I heard it, I had no idea. on the first Coverdale solo album called Whitesnake, the drummer on that is the guy from Toto. What's
Oh,
his name?
Simon Phillips.
Simon Phillips. That's
Simon,
right.
yeah,
I was so
Simon
surprised
Phillips.
when I first
Yeah,
found that
yeah,
out.
yeah. He's Simon Phillips is a monster drummer. Simon Phillips also played on, I think Judas Priest, Sin After Sin and Stained Class.
Yeah, that
I mean, he
surprised me
played
too.
anything. You know, he's played with Pete Townsend, and he's played in, and yeah, he's played with a ton of people. But yeah, he was in total for a long time. But
Yeah,
yeah, he's a great drummer. But you don't really, it wouldn't really jump out at you because it's not that, it's not complicated music. You see, you wouldn't really think that sounds like Simon Phillips playing. It was just like, we need a drummer. Okay.
yeah. And he was very
Also,
young at the time, so it's very
yeah.
interesting to listen to.
Also, on the song, going back to Snakebite and North Winds, the song "Keep on Giving Me Love." Apparently, Ronnie and Wendy Dio sing background vocals on that song, which is kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, that's true. Also very surprised when I found that out. I'm like the hugest, biggest Ronnie James Dio fan. He's like my number one singer of all time. I love Ronnie James Dio. So when I found that out, I was like, "Oh my god, did it really?" But yeah, that's really cool.
But it's interesting because here's David Coverdale
I
coming
think it's the
from.
song "Give Me Kindness." Actually, "Give Me Kindness."
Oh,
I
okay. I
think
thought it
that's
was
the one.
okay. I thought it was "Keep on Giving Me Love," but yeah. But the fact that you've got Coverdale coming from Deep Purple, coming from working with Blackmore to Dio, who was then working with Blackmore, it's all of the Purple family tree is just, it's
Mm,
got a lot of branches and it's a lot of connections.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, back to this album, Trouble. I think the title track is really, really good too.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Also like a live staple for them in the early period. So yeah, really good.
I
Um,
think that the last song, "Don't Mess with Me," like I would have liked that. That to me would have been a song that could have been cool live
yeah, also very
because
fast
it's one of the heavier.
one. Yeah,
It's one of the heavier ones. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I like the beat of that song. That dun, 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 dun. I like it very much.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then
Uh,
you've got the first one that Bernie Marsden sings, right? "Free Flight."
yeah, yeah, that's true because he sings also Outlaw on Love Hunter,
Outlaw,
which
yeah,
is
and
that song I
he's
like
got a
very much.
perfectly good voice.
Yeah,
But those are songs you could play for somebody that didn't know the early Whitesnake, and they'd never ever guess that it was Whitesnake because you think, well, it has to be Coverdale singing,
yeah. And
but
that's
it
very
really was a
interesting
band.
because I don't think Coverdale actually gave up the like his place in the band like he did on these two songs. I don't think he ever did that again. I don't think so. In
No,
Whitesnake.
that was
So
it. They were a band
yeah,
then, you know.
and that's very interesting because like in the 80s period, in the later 80s period, he became really the boss and the real band leader. He always was because it was his band in the early period too, but it really felt like a band, as you say, a collaboration. In the later period, you really felt that he was the one making the decisions. So,
Yeah,
especially like the 87 album, like he kicked
yeah.
everyone
Oh
out
yeah.
of the band after that.
Where
Yeah.
yeah, where it really didn't matter who was in the band as long as he was there. It's Whitesnake.
But I know Slip of the Tongue. It was like one of the first albums in many years where he said like this really felt like a band and real collaborations between the musicians and everything because he really felt comfortable with those guys. So that's also interesting because I just read the book in the Slip of the Tongue box set, and yeah, he really said that that was one of the first ones in many years where he felt really comfortable and that all the musicians were as passionate as he was. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Trouble's really good album, and yeah, but I think the next one is way better. Love Hunter with this
Yeah.
very interesting cover. You couldn't do this
Yeah.
nowadays,
Yeah.
but
No, no
you know,
way.
Coverdale can get away with
I,
anything, I guess.
yeah.
So yeah, I think Long Way from Home is a great opener. Always like that song. I like Coverdale's vocal range in the verses and everything. And yeah, really great song. One of my favorites in the whole period of the early Whitesnake is "Walking in the Shadow of the Blues."
Oh yeah.
What a
Yeah.
great
Great
song!
song.
And the
Yeah.
guitar playing there, I'm guessing it's Bernie Marsden in
That's
the
Bernie.
beginning
Yeah,
of
he
the song.
co-wrote that, and yeah, that's really one of his showcase songs, and that's a song that survived into the John Sykes era.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, really good. And that's also a song that they played during the Good to Be Bad era and everything. Maybe even
Yeah,
Forevermore, but I know on the I think it's called, what is Live in the Shadow of the Blues, I think it's called, from like
yeah.
2006 or
It's
7. They played
yeah.
that
There's
song.
it's confusing because there's like live in the heart of the city, live in the still of the night, live in the shadow of the blues, like all
Yeah,
these something of the something.
yeah, it's kind of confusing. So
Yeah,
yeah. And also, like the album covers in more recent years, a lot of them look like the same. There's just different
very much so.
colors and
Like
everything.
I Yeah, I've actually had to like I'd be in stores and I'd pick something up and I'd go, "Do I have this already?
Yeah,
I can't tell." Yeah.
because it's
So,
like the same symbol and the same logo on all of them. Like these
yeah.
early albums are very distinct and very different in their
Very
album
distinct
cover.
from each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very distinct from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can easily tell them apart.
One very good underrated track on this album is "Help Me Through the Day." I just really, really like that song. I like how mellow and calm and slow it is, and it's very different for cover day. So yeah, I think that's a really good song. So yeah, that's really cool.
So that's a
"Medicine Man,"
cover of
really catchy
a
song. And what were you saying?
Medicine Man is really good. Help Me Through the Day is actually a Leon Russell song, so it's a cover.
Yeah,
Kind of a throwback to the first two solo albums, right?
yeah,
But it also sounds like it could have been on Stormbringer to me.
yeah. It's kind of interesting that they did like these covers in the early days. That was not something that they
Yeah.
carried on in the future. So that's interesting.
No, not at all. They
So
did quite a few of them in the early days.
yeah, "Medicine Man" and "You and Me," they're kind of generic songs, but and kind of similar to each other. But I still like them very much. I think they're really good. "Mean Business." I think Carday's voice sounds kind of different on this one.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. Like this to me, I would have liked to heard live versions of this. This is a pounding kind of
Yeah, and the
rock
drums are like,
song.
yeah, yeah, very,
Yeah,
as you said, pounding and very intensive on that song. And yeah, "Love Hunter" is a highlight. Like, I think
yeah.
you can't go wrong with like any of the title tracks on these early Whitesnake albums.
They're all
Like,
pretty strong. Yeah,
all of them are pretty damn good. But I think "Love
yeah.
Hunter" is one of the better ones. And yeah, and also we will touch on it later, but "Love Hunter" on "Live in the Heart of the City" is, wow, very, very good and
Really,
very long.
really good. Yeah, really good showcase for Mickey Moody on slide guitar.
Yeah,
And also because I had that album first, he plays the melody from the song "Steal Away." So when I got Snakebite, I'm like, oh, okay, that's where that comes from.
yeah, yeah, true. So yeah, "Love Hunter," really, really good song. Probably one of the best on the early period of Whitesnake. And yeah, "Outlaw," as we said before, Bernie Marsden on vocals. I think this is the best one with Bernie on
Nice laid
vocals.
back. Yeah, nice
There are
laid
not too
back. I like the
many
feel.
to choose from, but I think this one is really, really good. And
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know when I first heard this album who it was. And then I read the credits and I'm like, oh yeah, he's a good singer. He sounds really good on
Yeah.
the song. So yeah. The next one, "Rock and Roll Women," I think it's so repetitive. Like it goes like
Yeah,
the
it is.
same all over. Like the ending of the song, a couple of times I feel like it's gonna end. Like
Yeah,
you
it's
think it
not
will
one of
end,
the better.
and then it just keeps on going. So yeah.
Yeah, it's not one. It sounds like they got to the end of the album and they're just like, well, just play a little bit longer. But I always get the title wise, I always get that mixed up with Rock and Roll Angels, but that's a much better song.
Yeah, true. And there's a lot of titles of songs in the Whitesnake catalog that sound similar to each other,
Oh yeah, very
especially in
much.
the later period with like "Flesh and Blood," "Forevermore," "Good to Be Bad," and those albums. There's a lot of titles with love in them. Of course, there were a lot of them in the early period too, and the heyday, the 80s big hair period.
Well,
But
it's
I think
funny.
in the later period, there's a lot of songs that
A
sound
lot
in
of
the
them.
title.
I
They sound similar.
I've always said that Whitesnake is a fun band because when they would put out a new album and you hadn't heard anything off it, you could look at the back cover and you could not tell which songs were the heavy ones and which ones were the ballads
Yeah,
because so many of the like they could be either with Coverdale.
yeah, very true. And the last one, which is kind of like an outro, "We Wish You Well," which they've used like on all their concerts ever since. And
Yeah, even
it's kind of like the
I saw
same
them.
that for Black Sabbath they used Fluff as the closer of their concerts
Yeah,
just to play on the PA system, and it's the
yeah,
same with "We Wish You Well" for Whitesnake. So that's kind of
yeah. It's the
interesting.
same thing that Queen did with "God Save the Queen." Their recorded version of that would just come over the PA, and you'd know the show was done.
Yeah.
Even when I saw the one time I saw Whitesnake, which was in 2018,
Mm.
that came over the PA, and it was the original 1979 version, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I saw Whitesnake, and it was actually my first concert ever. I saw Whitesnake, and it was in 2022, and it was in Sweden, of course. The arena was called Partille Arena, and it was in Gothenburg. And it's very interesting because like they played like 2 or 3 dates after, and then they canceled the tour because I think
Yeah,
both like Coverdale and Tommy Aldridge like got sick or something, and they had to cancel the rest. So I feel I'm very fortunate that I went
I
to that
I would.
show,
You may have seen
one
one of
of
the
the
last
last ones,
Whitesnake shows.
which
Yeah,
is very
I
interesting
saw
to think
them.
about.
When I saw them, it was in the U.S. And it was so the lineup was Jason Bonham doing the Led Zeppelin tribute, which was great. Then it was Whitesnake, and then it was Foreigner. Foreigner was the headliner, and Whitesnake was good. It was Reb Beach and Joel Hoekstra. I mean, it was great, and Tommy. But they only did slide it in and the '87 stuff. There was no not. They didn't even do Deeper the Love. They didn't even do Fool for Your Lovin'. I don't think. I think it
Which
was
is very
all slided
strange.
in 1987 stuff, but it was like 40, it was like an hour long. It
Yeah,
was good. I would have loved if they would have done Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City or something a little different, but
yeah, yeah. So yeah, as you said, that's what probably one of the last shows they played.
I would
I
say
think
so.
maybe they played in Oslo, also Norway. Maybe I think there
Yeah.
was like the date after, but then it was like cancelled. So I'm very fortunate in that way, because as we know, Dave Coverdale he doesn't play live anymore, so he's basically retired, and this was like his retirement thing that he was doing with the box sets, this legacy series that he was doing, and now he said he's done with that too because Forevermore was supposed to be the last box set. So I don't know what he's gonna
Yeah.
do now. Maybe he's just gonna enjoy his retirement or something. But
He's earned it, but you know what I would love to see, and I know that if Coverdale had his way, it would be out, but the Coverdale page.
yeah, that would have been a
Love
great
to see
box
a deluxe version of that. But
because
I
they
would
were
say that's
talking.
probably Jimmy Page that's holding that up.
Yeah, and they were like talking about that both David and Jimmy would do like their own remixes of the album. So it would be like two different versions. That would have been very interesting to hear. So, and I
It could
love
happen
that
yet.
album. It's so
Me
good.
too. Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But a dream would have been to. I know he doesn't own the rights to these albums we're talking about, but man, if they were reissued and they did like box sets of
Yeah.
all of these, that would have been a dream. But he doesn't own the
Maybe,
rights.
it might be a case where the rights will eventually revert back to him.
Mm,
So I don't know. I know that here in Canada, there's a company called Unidisc that picked up the rights to a lot of smaller labels, and Mirage Records was one of them. So now it's actually not that hard to go and find like reissued vinyl of Ready and Willing, Live in the Heart of the City, and come and get it, but not the earlier ones. But
yeah,
yeah, it would be cool to see the rights revert to him because I'm sure that there's live material that he could use. There's maybe some demos, but yeah.
yeah. So now that we've talked about the first two albums, what are your overall thoughts of both Trouble and Love Hunter?
Well, I think that each of them have some really good songs on them. I think that to a fan like me that was coming into the band, getting into them with 1987, it was a real adjustment
Yeah,
because it's very different.
true.
It's different musicians altogether, except for Coverdale. And Coverdale's vocal style was very different back then. It was very bluesy. It was lower. He was using the lower part of his range. But there are some great songs, and I like the fact that for a while, Geffen made these albums available. Like you saw them everywhere.
Yeah.
But what I really think is kind of funny is because Snakebite, especially Snakebite, Trouble and Love Hunter, they would say, copyright 1978, David Geffen Corporation. Geffen Records didn't exist until 1980, so these predate the existence of that label. It's just one of those funny record
Yeah.
label things.
All right. The next two albums, one studio, one live album. I'm just gonna pick this one up here. We have Ready and Willing and Live in the Heart of the City. So I guess we start off with Ready and Willing because it came first. So
Yeah.
I think this
So
cover is kind of bland, to be honest. Like looking at all these other covers, they're kind of interesting. But this one just has the band members and this gray background, and it just looks very strange. But hey, the cover doesn't reflect the music because the cover is kind of crap, but the music is amazing. So
I actually kind of like that cover. I think it's really classy looking, but it is very different. And the funny thing about this is that we're talking pre-internet here, and like we talked about with Geffen Records not reissuing Ready and Willing, so that means that it was not easy to find um, for somebody that was like me getting into the band in the late '80s. I eventually was lucky enough to find. I used to love it when I would go into a record store and they would have a dump bin full of like cheaper cassettes. That's where I found the Ready and Willing cassette. And the only reason I knew what this album looked like was that I bought a magazine back in 1988. It was Rock Scene. It was a rock magazine, but it was a special edition on Whitesnake because they were at the peak of their success. And so I bought it, and it had interviews with all the members of the band, and it talked a little bit about Deep Purple. It talked a little bit about um, Rudy Sarzo and Tommy Aldridge playing with Ozzy, and so it was a very very surface level. It's where I first heard about Vandenberg, which ended up being one of my favorite sort of unsung bands. But on the back cover of the magazine, it had all of Whitesnake's album covers. So that's how I knew to look for this, because otherwise I would have had no idea what it looked like.
yeah,
But anyway, so this album is interesting because this was their first taste of US success,
yeah,
because Fool for Your Lovin' actually peaked at number 53 on Billboard in 1980, which is not, that meant that there were probably a lot of radio stations around the country playing the song. So it did fairly well. And I think that it might be the first time that Whitesnake toured in the US. I
mm,
know they opened for Jethro Tull, and I don't know if they opened for I don't know if they opened for AC/DC or if that was just in Europe, but it was a taste of what could happen for David Coverdale.
yeah.
Um, and I mean, obviously, I happen to like the 1989 version of For Fear Lovin',
It's all right.
but the original is the best.
Yeah,
The original
definitely.
it's one of the greatest Whitesnake songs. I mean, it's got so much attitude. It's got soul. It's got great drumming from Ian Pace. This is Ian Pace's first album, so now you have you know, three. You have 3 out of 6 members of this band were all Deep Purple former members, and if anybody saw the interview I did with Steve McLean, who wrote that great book called "Stealing Deep Purple," which is about the Rod Evans going out touring as Deep Purple in 1980.
Ah,
Well, I mean, personnel wise, this was more Deep Purple. Rainbow was more Deep Purple because you had Blackmore and Glover.
yeah,
Really weird. But anyway, that's another story. But I think the other albums were good, but to me, this is the first great Whitesnake
yeah.
album.
Agreed. Agreed. So yeah, as we were saying, Food for Your Loving. classic song, really great, amazing album opener. Definitely the best opener on all these like five early albums. Just really, really great, and definitely one of my favorites of this era, and maybe of all the eras actually, because Foo for Loving
Yeah,
is such a classic.
it's right up there, and like I said, it hit 53 in the US, but in the UK, I think it went all the way to 13. Like, it was
Yeah.
a big hit for them. Like, it really set them up as, okay, this is a band that could end up doing something. Yeah.
So the next track is Sweet Talker. I love the opening guitar on that one. That
Yeah.
I think it's such a great song. Also a very fast one, and yeah, the lyrics are kind of silly and interesting. But Coverdale is a romantic at heart,
That's
and
that's Coverdale. Yeah,
some
that's
of
him.
his lyrics are really exploring like the themes of lust and everything and love and everything that's going on in bed. That's like his
Yeah.
favorite theme to talk about. I think Sweet
You know,
Talker is a great example of that. So.
I think I think Mickey Moody one that, they anytime that you'd mention Coverdale, like the lyrics to him, they just get worse. So
Yeah,
they just stopped.
yeah. And he's not ashamed of it at all. Like, and
Nope.
I don't think he should
Nope.
because I kind of like the lyrics to be honest. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
they
part of
fit
his
his voice.
personality, right?
Yeah, he has a very interesting personality, David Coverdale.
Yeah.
So we love him for it because he's an interesting person. But
Yeah.
yeah, Sweet Talker, really great, really fast, good song. I think Ready and Willing, just with the drums at the beginning, and then it just starts and the guitar and it's just so it really feels like both Coverdale and the band has something to say. Like there's like an announcement. Here we are. Listen to what
Yeah.
we're gonna play. So yeah, I think Ready and Willing is really really good song. Always love
Yeah.
that one, and I think it's one of the better deep cuts in the early period. I think it's really really good.
And I think it's one that he brought back in later years
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So Carry Your Load. I don't think it's too interesting, to be honest. I think it's okay. It's a decent track, but I think
I think it has the misfortune of coming after three really good tracks.
yeah, that's true. Now, Blind Man, the original version of Blind Man was on the Whitesnake album. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. But I have to be honest, I prefer this one so
Oh,
much. I
same.
think this one is
The
way
production is
better.
better. The arrangement is better. It's
Yeah.
just it's stronger.
Yeah, and I've heard people on YouTube talking about these two versions, and there are a lot of people that prefer the original, but I just like this one so much. The intensity, the passion in Coverdale's voice, the added keyboards and synthesizers of John Lord just adds so much to it, and the guitar playing is exceptional. So yeah, I really like this version of Blind Man. I think it's also one of the better deep cuts on this album. Really, really good. So
Yeah.
the next one, Ain't Gonna Cry No More. Now that's a song that they also resurrected in more recent years, the last 15, 20 years. There's like 3 or 4 tracks that they kind of resurrected from this early period during like the Good to Be Bad era and those tours. And I really like that about that period. That they brought back some of these songs that are like not as known as maybe Foo for Your Loving and other hit tracks. So yeah, and I like the acoustic guitar in the beginning and everything. Coverdale sounds great as usual, and I like when the intensity starts like halfway through the song, and the
Yeah.
band comes in, and oh, it's so great. Really, really
Yeah.
good song.
There there could be an idea there for another type of box set Coverdale could do. He could do a box set of more modern live versions of some of these older tracks to expose people to, like, this is what I was doing in the early years of Whitesnake.
something that would have been great would have been to see like a live box set, like they did the most recent one, well, before the Forevermore one, the one Access All Areas, the one with all the live albums from 2004 onwards. I think
Yeah.
that would have been great to see like a live album box set for the early period, to
Yeah.
like get the Trouble tour, Love Hunter, Ready and Willing, all these tours. That would have been super cool. And you can throw
Yeah.
in like Live in the Heart of the City and Live at Hammersmith, these albums that we already know. But to have seen like Love Hunter tour or maybe Come and Get It tour and Saints and Sinners, that would have been super cool. Because now we
Well, because
basically have
the Saints and
Trouble
Sinners tour,
and
yeah,
Ready and Willing tour. That's basically what we have with these
yeah.
two live
The
albums.
Saints and Sinners is such an interesting period because it's like Mickey Moody's out, he's back. Neil Murray's out, he's back.
Yeah,
It'd be good to have a document of that.
yeah. And something we haven't mentioned, of course, Ian Pace is now on in Whitesnake. Really, really good drummer, and I think
You can
that
really
drastically
hear,
changed the
yeah, you
sound.
can really hear the difference. The whole bottom end
Yeah.
has, it's really solidified. Now, I don't think it sounds like Deep Purple. I
No,
think it's
no,
its own thing,
no.
but it's really, really good.
And I think, as you mentioned before, I think the only the Purple album during the Coverdale era that kind of sounds like the early Whitesnake is Come Taste the Band. I
Yeah,
think,
Come Taste the Band. It's the closest, right, in
yeah,
proximity. But it's also there are songs like Coming Home and Lady Luck that just you know. I really like the Purple album, by the way. Like when
me too, me
Coverdale
too.
redid all those songs, but the original versions of them wouldn't sound out of place in these early Whitesnake albums.
Yeah, yeah, true. So yeah, the next song, Love Man. I think it's good song, not too special for me. I don't know what you
It's a
think about it,
blues.
but
It's just a blues. It's
yeah,
fine.
it's all right. Black and Blue. This is the song where they have like this fake crowd cheering at the
Yeah,
beginning and at the end. But I think it's a solid track. I think it's good, like boogie rock. So
yeah. It's totally a boogie party rock song.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. She's a Woman. That's really builds up the intensity at the end of the album.
yeah,
I love the keyboards in the. I like that
yeah.
melody, and like John Lord really rips on this song, and I love it so much. Really good track. So
It's a good fast one too. It's
yeah,
almost like, well, it's similar to Take Me With You, but if you listen to Live in the Heart of the City, John Lord goes into that like he goes into that melody. So that makes sense too because they're very similar in tempo. But yeah, great way to close the album.
yeah, yeah. So that was Ready and Willing. Really good album. One of the best albums during the early period of Whitesnake. Now we move on to Live at the Heart of the City. Now, there was quite a while ago that I listened to this one, so I don't have too much to say, other than, as I said before, I love the version of Love Hunter on this one. Very long, extend. I think it's almost like 10 minutes or something. I
It's
don't
pretty
know.
long, pretty extended
Yeah, I
solo,
don't have
right?
the track times on this CD here, but yeah, it's kind of long and I love it so much. And as you said, Mickey Moody really gets to showcase his slide playing on that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love the selections of the songs. Come On, I really liked that one from Snakebite. So I think that was a good choice. Sweet Talker, really good from Ready and Willing. Walking at the Shadow of the Blues, as we said before, one of the best ones during the early period. Love Hunter, Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. So good to hear it live. Just and the crowd uh, sings along during the breakdown of the song and everything. Just really great song live and a live staple for the future of Whitesnake.
Yeah.
Hope we're loving. Great to hear live too. And as Covday mentioned, this is the song you helped us to get into the
Top
charts.
20. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Ain't Gonna Cry No More, also one of my favorites, as I mentioned before. Ready and Willing and Take Me With You. So this is like just such a banger album. There's not a single song that I would have changed out for another one. So I think basically this is like the perfect live album for the early period of Whitesnake. But as I said, it was quite a while ago I listened to this one, so I definitely need to listen to it again. But do you have any more thoughts on Live in the Heart of the City.
Oh yeah, this was a very important album for me getting into the early Whitesnake because so the first thing I bought was obviously the 1987 album. Or it was just self-titled in North America. But our video channel, Much Music, which is the Canada's equivalent to MTV, used to have these daily shows called spotlights where they would play a half an hour by a particular artist or group. And I happened to catch one in like late 87. And I really didn't know much about Whitesnake except for Still of the Night and Here I Go Again.
Mm.
But I knew I liked this band. And so when I found out that there was a spotlight coming up, I think, well, I got to record this on a videotape because I don't know what else there is because I know they can't do a spotlight on a band that have two videos. Is This Love had not come out yet at this point. So it came on, and the first video they played was the original video for Fool for Your Lovin'.
Which is a great
And
video. I love that one.
it is, they look cool in it. And that's when I realized, okay, these guys are really different band members, different, Coverdale looks different, his hair is brown. But I love the song, just love the song instantly. And I'm like, okay, this is good. And then it was Slow and Easy, and then Love Ain't No Stranger. And I was just hooked. I'm like, okay, I got to get more albums from this band. But I really, after I bought the 87 album, I really wanted to get whatever album had Fool for Your Loving on it because I wanted that song.
Mm.
And as we talked about, Ready and Willing was not reissued on
Yeah.
Geffen. So I couldn't find it. The only thing I could find in a record store was this. And I looked at the back of it and okay, well, this has Fool for Your Loving on it. It's a live album. I'll get it. So this is the first time, other than Fool for Your Loving, this is the first time I heard any of those songs. And the version that we got over in North America only has 7 songs on it. So it had Come On, Sweet Talker, Walk in the Shadow of the Blues, Love Hunter, Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City, Fool for Your Loving, and Take Me With You. That was
Ah,
the Yeah,
okay.
that was the version of Ain't No Love in the City that I basically grew up with. And it wasn't until much later that I got the reissue CD, which has
Yeah.
both. So that's when I heard the live versions of Ain't Gonna Cry No More, Ready and Willing, and then the live at Hammersmith, they dip into Deep Purple with Might Just Take Your Life and Mistreated, and they do Trouble and Lie Down. But it did the trick because the next thing I think that I bought from them was Snakebite, but I like the versions of the songs on here. The lineup is terrific. Like it's just a
Yeah.
great lineup. Songs are, if you notice, they're all a little bit faster than the studio versions. And so when I heard the studio versions, they sounded slowed down to me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when I got Snakebite, like I said, that was the next thing I got. So I said, well, okay, well, this has Come On and Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. I know those songs, so I'll get it. And like, well, wow, they're so slow.
Mm.
But I got used to it. But and it was interesting to hear Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City on the live album because I realized what an important song that was for Whitesnake. It was just one of a bunch of songs I was hearing for the first time, but I'm like, well, okay, obviously the crowd knows they know every word to this song. So it's obviously an important song for them. So I've said this to people. If you're interested in checking out the early Whitesnake, I would start with this
Interesting.
because if you don't like this, you're probably not going to like the older albums.
Another good alternative would have been like the Best of Whitesnake, the compilation that was just only
Is
released in France and Japan, I think.
that the one where Coverdale's smoking a cigarette
Yeah.
on the cover?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get that over here, but I've
Yeah.
seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that one on vinyl, and it has like most of the best songs during
Yeah.
the early period. So that's also a great starting point. But as
And
Tim
also,
said, Live in the Heart of the City is a great choice for you people watching. So,
but if
yeah.
but if you want to hear the studio versions, actually, I was impressed by this. In 2006, Universal put out the definitive collection for Whitesnake,
Mm.
and think that it's the first time that there was a compilation that mixed the eras because
Yeah,
it's got Ready and Willing on it. It's got oh, Don't Break My Heart Again. Like it's got the pre-slided in stuff alongside the post
is that
1984 stuff.
the 30th anniversary free disc one that was released in
No,
2008?
no, this is just a this is just a single disc because Universal had this series called the Definitive Collection. This was just the Whitesnake version of it, but it has It's actually got Pride and Joy on it, which is kind of cool.
Mhm.
But it's good, and it's got We Wish You Well at the end of it, so it combines the eras, I thought was kind of a good thing. But it actually has some of the early tracks on it.
Is that the one with the black cover, like called like the
Yes,
silver collection or something like that? I think it's called like
there's
the
so many of them.
silver anniversary collection or something like that.
I thought that was the one that just had the Slide It In 1987 and Slip of the Tongue on it. But there's, like you said, there's so many of
Yeah,
these.
yeah,
This is just a single disc. It does have a black cover with just the Whitesnake,
okay.
seal. Um, but it's good. It's a good single disc collection
Yeah,
if you want to get into it. It's To me, it's much more complete than the '94 greatest hits that
yeah.
Geffen put out. First of all, it doesn't have the crappy '87 remix of Here I Go
Oh
Again that I've never liked.
no,
Um,
terrible.
but anyway,
Yeah,
but yeah, Live in the Heart of the City. It's an overlooked live album. Nobody, when people list the top live albums of all time, it never gets mentioned because it wasn't that big, at least in North America. But I think it's great. I even like the cover. I like the airbrushed sort of,
yeah.
you
That's
know,
really cool. Really,
yeah.
really cool.
So
Yeah, great live album. So yeah, the next album, Come and Get It, which has a great album cover. This is one of
yeah,
my favorites of all the Whitesnake albums. And you
yeah,
see there in the mouth, it kind of is suggestive in in some ways
yeah,
what it's
yeah.
supposed to depict there. So yeah,
But I like the fact that there's sort of a story is being told,
yeah,
because if you look at the back cover, well, okay, no more. Where did the snake
yeah,
go?
it broke
Um,
free. Yeah,
yeah,
and I
this
like we
was
have all the members also at the top there.
yeah,
So,
I like that too.
so yeah.
Um, I This was a big album for them. I think Ready and Willing hit number 6 in the UK. This one went all the way to number 2. So
Oh,
they were really hitting an early peak in the UK.
yeah, yeah, really awesome album. I think it's kind of even though you said it went to number two, nowadays I think it's kind of underrated. So I don't hear a
Definitely.
lot of people talk about this. More often than not, people during the early period of Whitesnake, most people mention Ready and Willing because it has Fool for Loving and has some
Yeah.
other great songs that they play live and all that stuff. But I think this is maybe together with Ready and Willing, this is like the two best albums for me at least during the
And
early
what's
period.
interesting too is that this was the first time that you had the same lineup for 2 albums in a row.
True. Yeah.
So they've really solidified how they played together.
Yeah.
My friend Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation lives in Australia. This is
He
his favorite
loves this
Whitesnake
one.
album.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
this is his favorite album.
Yeah.
So and you know what? For good reason. It's good. It's
Yeah.
really, really, really solid. And yeah, I've always really liked this album. I think that it's an album that is starting to point the way to Whitesnake being a more commercial band, and
Yeah.
and it's just a collection of really, really strong songs.
Yeah. I think like this album is kind of front loaded in some ways. Even though I say this is like one of my favorites during the early era, there are still some songs that I don't like. But I think the really good songs are so good that it just elevates it to like the top.
The
So
Yeah, I agree. The percentage, the highs are higher.
yeah, very true, very true.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Something that's really interesting. I mean, we'll get to it, but I've never really thought about it before. But obviously, this, like a lot of the albums, it opens with the title song, "Come and Get It." But the first thing you hear is Ian Pace. Like, you hear a snare drum hit from Ian Pace, and it's sort of on the offbeat, like it's not on the one, which isn't that different from the way that Deep Purple's Knocking at Your Back Door starts off. When the drums kick in, it's not on the one. It's like on the and of one or two. Um, and that was only 3 years later, right?
I
Just
never thought
something that's
about
kind of
that, but yeah, very true, very true. And like Perfect Strangers, such a great album. Like
oh yeah,
so good.
yeah,
But that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, I think Come and
yeah,
Get It really good. As I said before, this is the album I feel at least that Jean Lord is the most present in the mix. And I just
yeah.
love his like keyboard patterns and everything. during the whole entire album, but especially "Don't Break My Heart Again" and this song. You hear him very clearly. But yeah, "Come and Get It," really good song to open the album. "Hot Stuff," very fast, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like a cheery song almost. It's very kind of happy sounding and very fast, and yeah, I like it very much. But and leads very great into the opposite, which is "Don't Break My Heart Again," which is more
Yeah.
dramatic in its tone and everything. I think that's a great contrast. So, and
Yeah.
I have to say, "Don't Break My Heart Again" is probably my number one favorite song during the entire early period of Whitesnake. I just love it so much.
It,
Really
it
good.
was another big hit for them in the
Yeah,
UK. I think it went to 17. It's great because it's got those it's just got that steady bass pulse. And so it just do do do.
yeah,
And when they brought that back, when Whitesnake reunited, it sounded great with Doug Aldrich playing it and Uriah Duffy playing the bass part. And it's similar to Fool for Your Loving. It's similar in its sort of feel, but it's its own song, and it's one that, of course, I didn't hear it until I heard this album. But I knew that it was a song. I recognized the song title from reading about Whitesnake, so I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I can see where this song might have gotten radio play
yeah.
because it's catchy.
And I love the
Great,
solo in this one. Very, very
yeah,
good.
it's great. It's a great song. And I'm glad he brought this one back.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think like the song that follows is also very great. Not as great as "Don't Break My Heart Again," but very close for me. I think "Lonely Days, Lonely Nights." Wow, really, really good song. Also one of my favorites, and I also like how dramatic this one is, and it really fits in. Like I think "Don't Break My Heart Again" and this song is very similar in tone, and I like it that it like keeps moving forward in that way. And then obviously we get a huge contrast at the end of the side with "Wine, Women, and Song." But yeah,
That's very much an earlier days Whitesnake type of song, right?
yeah,
That's like Black and Blue or Lie Down. It's
yeah,
it's a party song for
yeah,
Coverdale.
yeah. And also again silly lyrics, but kind of
Silly
fun.
lyrics.
It doesn't have to be too
Yeah.
serious. And like
Nope.
Coverdale is the greatest example of that, not taking yourself too seriously. So yeah, I think "Child of Babylon" is very underrated. I love that song.
That's an epic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's an epic song.
love like the beginning of it with all these sound effects, and it starts very slowly, and then the guitar and everything at the beginning very calm, and then you get into the song, and yeah, I think it's really good. I think the lyrics are kind of interesting, and yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a great song, kind of an epic, as you say. So,
Yeah.
and I think wasn't this like side two of "Don't Break My Heart Again" as the single? Or was it its
I've got
own single?
I think so. Yeah, I've got the 45 to this. It was, yeah.
Yeah. And I actually saw on your mail call episode that you just got the single for
Yeah.
"Don't Break My Heart Again." So,
Yeah.
and I also had that in the past, and yeah, it's really cool.
And that I love that. I love the cover of that because it's just this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's just a cool visual.
yeah,
Yeah, Child of Babylon is like I know that years later, David Coverdale got the whole Led Zeppelin clone comparisons, and especially a song like Judgment Day.
mm,
Uh, but this is like the early White Snake version of Kashmir. I mean, this is an
mm,
epic track, and I like the fact they opened side two with it. It's like they were proud of it.
yeah,
Like let's just
yeah,
start right off with a bang.
yeah. Now I feel the two following tracks here are kind of the low point for me.
I agree. It
Yeah,
dips.
I
Yeah,
think "What I Like to You" very repetitive, very similar to "Rock and Roll Women" on
yeah.
Love Hunter. I think in its song structure and how repetitive it is, and yeah, I don't like it too much. It's not really so bad of a song, but yeah, I think the next
Doesn't
one,
stand up to what's around it.
yeah, and I think the next one is definitely the worst one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of like the groove of it, like dum 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 dum. Dum. I kind of like that
The
part.
lyrics are
Yeah,
ridiculous.
the lyrics, and I just talked about that doesn't have to be too serious, but I think this is kind of taking it too far. I think they're really silly lyrics. The crazy white girl and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think it works. And the chorus is really like lackluster for me.
yeah.
It basically is not
Not
really a chorus. He just sings a girl
no,
and
no.
that's
It
done.
just sounds like they didn't know what to do with it. So they
Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of an anti-chorus.
yeah, true. Hit and Run is also a highlight for me. I love that song, and
Oh, Hit and Run.
I love that.
Love that.
I love that.
That's
So good.
that is to me that is quintessential Whitesnake firing on all cylinders at this
Yeah,
point. I love the talk box solo from Mickey Moody. The groove is just like this is also probably of that early period. It's probably the best produced album. I love the production on this album, and they're all Martin Birch. But I just think he was gelling with them, and they were gelling with him. This is a great, like, really high fidelity recording. I think
yeah, yeah.
the drums sound fantastic. Though, bah, bah, da da da, like the way
Mhm.
that this song starts out. It's even the way, just simple things like the way that, when Ian Pace switches to the bell of his ride cymbal, like everything's so well recorded. I don't know if anybody else has noticed or not, but Martin Birch has a different nickname on every one of these albums that he's produced if you look at the credits. But
Yeah,
Hit and Run is great. Now I think this is a song they I don't know if they played the whole song, but I know that on one of those like 2000s era Whitesnake concerts, they go into the riff a little bit at a certain point.
yeah,
It's a great song.
yeah. Till the Day I Die, also a really good song.
Yeah.
Kind of like an epic in its own way. And I love the acoustic guitar in the beginning. And Coverdale also sounds kind of different on this one too. So yeah, I really like his voice on this one. And
It ends strong. The
yeah,
album ends strong.
yeah,
Yeah. And this one reminds me a lot of Ain't Gonna Cry No More.
yeah, true, very true. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that was Come and Get It. Now to the last album of today is Saints and Sinners. Now this is a very interesting album because I heard a lot of people talking on YouTube when they talk about the early period of Whitesnake. Like most people don't really talk about this period at all, but the people that do, they say that this album is really like the one that has like some good songs, but mostly like filler type songs. I did agree with that in the past, but I've grown to really like this album. I think Young Blood is a great opener. I love how heavy it is in some ways
It's
with that
heavy.
riff.
Yeah, it's heavy. It's in drop D tuning. So it's got the bottom end is really, and the funny thing about this is that there's a it's a sort of obscured who's actually playing on this thing, because there's the only pictures of Coverdale, and it doesn't have, I know it's not Bernie Marsden at this point, but it's Mel Galley, um, and Mick Moody. But I've heard it said that this is Ian Pace playing on this, but it doesn't sound like it.
Who knows?
I always figured this was Cozy Powell, just because Ian Pace doesn't is he's a fantastic drummer. He's very nimble. He's not a hard hitting drummer.
Yeah,
So either it is Cozy Powell playing on it, or it was just the drums were just recorded very high up in the mix, because this does not sound like Ian Pace to me. This sounds more like Cozy Powell. Now, granted, maybe I'm thinking that because he's in the videos from this period, but
yeah.
it doesn't sound like Ian
No,
Pace to me.
I,
But
I agree.
what a great strong heavy opener. Like, you talk about pointing the way forward to the future. Like, it's amazing to me that this album just not get released in the US and Canada in its day, because this is more like Whitesnake were sort of considered like honorary new wave of British heavy metal, because they predate it because of the history of the members of the band. But I mean, this song would hold its own. I
Very
mean, it's a
true.
heavy song.
Yeah, yeah. One of the better tracks on this album. Obviously, Here I Go Again and Crying in the Rain are really good, and I kind of prefer these ones to the 87 versions, to be honest, because the 87 versions, I think they're too bombastic and too like exaggerated in some ways. I think this is really like a more stripped down, basic kind of take on it, and I kind of
Yeah,
prefer this. Now, obviously, Here I Go Again became a huge hit when they redid
yeah,
it, and they tried, as we said before, try to capitalize on that and also do Who for Your Loving, a new version of that too, but it didn't work at all with that
didn't
one.
work. You know,
But yeah, I think the redone version of Here I Go Again was a huge success, both commercially and musically. I think it's really good, that version. But I still kind of prefer this one, to be honest.
I
Mm.
love, I like the fact that there's this. For those that know, there's this alternate version. Like when people say, "Oh yeah, well, there's two versions of Here I Go Again." Well, it's actually three. Because there's two 87
Yeah,
versions, but but the version that people know, the version that's the video and the version that became the number one hit, is based on this original version with
yep,
just starting off with keyboards. Now it doesn't. So the difference is here, of course, is that it's not the big wash of synthesizers. It's an organ
yep,
sound playing the same notes, but it is more laid back. I love the fact that we have this sort of this version of such a well-known song that you can play for people and they go, "What's this?
mm,
What is this?"
yeah,
I actually remember around 87 uh, seeing the original video for this. So I was familiar with what it sounded like, and the first thing that sticks out to me is the fact that David Coverdale says, like a hobo, I was born to walk alone instead of like a drifter.
yeah,
Other than that, it's yeah, he's not hitting the huge big high notes, although he kind of does. The solo's not as bombastic, but I like it. I like the original version, and it's sort of like it shows you that that this is a fantastic song. Sometimes it's just nice to hear a version where like someone let the air out of it
yeah,
and just kind of lets it let it kind of breathe on its own. But I can also understand where like John Kalodner, somebody that had an eye for hits would go, given a re-recording, this could be a hit, and he was absolutely right.
yeah,
Now I like the 87 version of Crying in the Rain
yeah. I
better
like it
because
too.
it's
I like
just
it too.
so heavy and John Sykes is just on fire.
Yeah,
I like the original version of it just fine. um I actually always kind of liked this album. It's just that it's if people know this album at all, it's because it's got two songs on it that would end up on the
yeah,
87 album. But there are songs on here that are pretty good in their own right.
yeah, yeah. So I think the second track, "Rock and Ready," I think it's a good song. It's cool. Not nothing too special about it, but
More really in-depth lyrics from Coverdale.
yeah. And then "Bloody Luxury," also kind of like this cheery, happy song with
Little
the keyboards
throwback.
in the
Yeah,
background. Sounds kind of
little throwback
silly.
to earlier. Yeah, Victim of Love is great.
Yeah, yeah.
Victim of Love wouldn't sound out of place on Slide It In or 87 or Slip of the Tongue.
And the interesting thing about "Victim of Love" is like the verses are kind of not dark, but they're kind of more dramatic in the tone and
Yeah,
everything. And then we come to the chorus, and it's kind of this happy type sing along chorus. So I think that's also an interesting contrast. But yeah, I think "Victim of Love" is also one of the better deep cuts on
but
this.
if you listen to songs like this, and I would say Youngblood, Coverdale's vocals are getting closer to that to
Slide
that
it in.
singing in a higher part of his range. So
Yeah.
it's more recognizable. Okay, that sounds like Whitesnake.
Yep. Yep. True. Now, skipping over the two tracks we just talked about, "Love and Affection" is the next one then. And I also think this is kind of a generic song, to be honest. Doesn't do
Yeah.
too much for me. And yeah,
It it's funny because like this album has such a heavy a heavy production on it. It doesn't work with songs like this.
yeah, very true. Same with "Bloody Luxury," as we talked about before.
Yeah.
Uh, "Rock and Roll Angels" also kind of this very repetitive for me at least. This song, and yeah, don't like it too much. But I think "Dancing Girls," which is also a silly
It's a silly
title,
lyric, but
but I
it's
like
a cool.
Yeah,
It's a cool riff.
yeah, I like how heavy it is. Also, like Youngblood and Dancing Girls are two of the more heavier songs. If we're not
Yeah.
counting Crying in the Rain,
Yeah.
of course. Um,
Dancing Girls is not, and that's not a title that sounds like a heavy song at all, but it is for
Yeah, and I
them.
was very surprised when I heard it first time. I thought like, okay, this is gonna be another Bloody Luxury or Love and Affection. But yeah, I was
Yeah.
very surprised when I first heard that riff, and I think it's all right. I think it's the
Yeah.
lyrics are terrible, but I think it's better than Rock and Roll Angels and Love and
Yeah. But
Affection.
I like when it just goes to the bass drum and the hi-hats where it's
Yeah,
like dance.
yeah,
Like that's cool. It's a good song.
yeah,
It's a good song.
yeah. Saints and Sinners, really good. I love that riff in
Yeah.
the beginning. I love
I
it.
love
It's
that
so good.
repetitive sort of it's a very White Snake thing, but it is heavy again. The drums are recorded really, really loud, and I like this one a lot.
Yeah, and also like just before the chorus, like I just love that guitar melody and everything. So yeah, I think it's really
Yeah,
I
really.
love that. So good. So yeah, I think Saints and Sinners is a great closer for the album. So yeah, I think like
It's
the
interesting that they close with the title track too, right?
yeah, exactly. So I think like the beginning parts of the album really strong. So if we say side one, I think the only weak track is Bloody Luxury. Then side
Yeah,
two, there are like two songs in a row, Love and Affection and Rock and Roll Angels, which I don't like too much. But the rest of the album, I think it's very strong. And I think it's a
yeah,
very decent album. So yeah, I would probably rank this like number four of all these. I would
it's
probably say
good.
Trouble is my least favorite, and then maybe this one, Love Hunter, Come and Get It, and then Ready and Willing. Or maybe I would
That sounds about
switch those two.
That sounds about what I might rate Come and Get It a little higher, but it sounds about like how I would rate
Yeah,
them. But I mean, it's really. I think more people need to check out these albums. I know a lot of people
very
did
true.
when they first got reissued. I know I certainly did, but I think more people need to check them out. And Ready and Willing is an album that, because it wasn't part of that initial reissue series, that I think a lot of people know "Fool for Your Loving," but they don't realize how old a song that was. Um, and I always thought that was a strange choice for a song of them to redo anyway, because it ended up it it was too heavy for a top 40 radio. It was a minor hit, but for the first single, I never thought that was a good idea. And it
Yeah.
turns out that, that album sold a fraction of what the 87 album sold, even though I quite like it. But yeah, no, the early stuff is there to be checked out, and hopefully, like we said, uh, because these things do happen. Hopefully, the rights will expire and Coverdale will end up
Yep.
owning the masters, so he can do with them what he wants. And
Yeah.
nobody's going to put the care into it like he will.
Exactly. Because I think
This
he
is his this
really
is his legacy.
yeah, I think he really put his heart and his soul into these reissues. Everything is like high quality. The only
Very
really the
meticulous.
only thing that they kind of skimped on these last boxes was like the poster was super thin and it was just
Yeah,
very cheap paper. But otherwise, everything the quality was held up all through the Legacy series that he did.
yeah.
So yeah, and I think they are so great. So if there are people that don't know maybe the later period albums like Restless Heart or Good to Be Bad, Forevermore, check those out too. Not only these
Yeah,
albums we talked about here, the
absolutely.
early. I think
Yeah,
the
don't
later
don't just
period of Whitesnake is also very important and really good.
yeah, don't stop with the three big albums
Yeah,
like Slide It In and 87 and Slip of the Tongue.
yeah,
Even though those are the easiest ones to find and the ones that are most likely to be compiled, dig a little deeper.
yeah. Yeah, I absolutely love Restless Heart, for example. Good to Be
Yeah,
Bad, I think
it's a great
also
album.
very strong album. Like one of the best comeback albums for me is Good to Be Bad. I think it's really, really solid. Forevermore,
Yeah.
I think it's all right. It's like half of it I really liked, and half of it it's kind of forgettable. Flesh and Blood, I don't
Correct.
really like too much, but yeah. So yeah, I think that the entire catalog of Whitesnake is pretty solid. I think it's very good. So yeah, and it's very interesting to talk about these early albums because there's a lot of people, as we mentioned before, that don't know these albums, especially in the US and Canada. Now in Europe, there's still a lot of people that know these albums and have loved them for years. But so it's really interesting to highlight these albums to help people get to know them better. So
Well, it's interesting because I mean, it has a lot to do with where you lived and how old you are. Because I mean, to people that grew up in Europe and like were following Coverdale through Deep Purple, you ask them to people like that, this is Whitesnake.
yeah,
The later stuff is terrible,
yeah,
you know. So it just it just depends.
yeah. It's a matter of perspective. So yeah.
Yeah.